for a strength exchange. I will gladly take your joy for my weakness. Give me a clean heart, and I will serve nobody but you. It all the way. Give me a clean heart, and I will serve nobody but you. Yeah. Give me a clean heart. I'm calling out to you to keep my heart from fading. This is all I know to do. Just lay your hands on me, Lord, and I will be brand new. And I am worshiping your great and holy name. I'm determined to have life with no chains to bind me. Give me a clean heart, and I will serve nobody but you. And I am calling out to you for a strength exchange. I will gladly take your joy for my weakness. Give me a clean heart, and I will serve nobody but you, nobody but you. Hey, I am worshiping your great and holy name. I'm determined to have life with no chains. Give me a clean heart, and I will serve nobody but you, Lord. Oh, Lord. And I am calling out to you for a strength exchange. I will gladly take your joy for my weakness. Give me a clean heart, and I will serve nobody but you. Yeah. Nobody but you. Yeah. Nobody but you. Yeah. It's only worth it to serve you.
Welcome back, Zion. Oh, honey, listen, we are here for leftovers. So we have been talking about Mark chapter 5, and it's so good. It's so rich. We have a few more things we want to just dive into. And so there are two major questions that we want to, or major areas we want to unpack as it relates to this passage. So y'all ready? Can we go a little bit deeper?
Ready.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go.
So the first one is this. Minister David, you kind of mentioned this last week when we talked, when you ended we ended our discussion, and you talked about everybody not being excited about your healing. And if we look at this passage, again, there are 3 instances where Christ healed, right? And so the demoniac, after he was healed, the people in the town were like, no, Jesus, we need you to get out of here, right? You didn't cost somebody some money, probably all kind of thoughts. And they wanted him to leave. With the woman with the issue of blood, the disciples are like, I'm sorry, did anybody really touch you? Like all these people out here? Are you really gonna stop and like pay attention to that? And then Jairus' daughter, when he went in, they laughed. So how do you handle, you are in your process. God is doing something, you're waiting. How do you handle the people's response when you're in this process? How do you not go crazy on them and stuff?
My answer to that is the focus has to always be Christ-centered.
Okay.
Because in every one of those situations, that the person with the demons, he made a beeline for Jesus.
Come on.
The woman, she did whatever she could to get through that crowd, to press her way to get to Jesus. You know, Jairus, that man who had prestige and had all of this, clout, he made his way to find Jesus. You know what I'm saying? So I think there comes a point in time when you really need healing, when you really need a touch from God, you got to block everybody else out. So
I think you have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yes.
It's you got to be sick and tired of it, because it's easy to say that it's understanding who Christ is, right? Sometimes, again, we go back to the pride, and we, you just get sick and tired. And so for me, if I keep my eyes on Christ, what everybody else thinks doesn't matter, right? Faith not fair. Favor is not fair. So I keep my eyes focused on him, but it's also a learning process. You have to learn. When you really get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you learn to trust him, and everything around you doesn't matter, because you've set your mind on the prize.
Yeah.
Wow. And I mean, I think about we're talking about the demoniac, and one of the things that I found so fascinating about the passage is that up to this point, there have been a lot of leaders that are like, for real, dude, you're not the savior. Like, I hear you talking a good game, but whatever. The demons were like, oh, snap, this is the Son of God. Like, why are you messing with us? Why are you interfering with us? Why are you doing this? So if the demons can recognize his power, and what more should we then have the opportunity to really recognize his power, and as Minister Dane and Minister Davian alluded to, like, block that noise out. One of the things, Minister Randy Pike said this a couple of weeks ago. He was talking to some of the kids in the youth ministry, and he was saying that there's so much noise sometimes between us and Christ.
Yes.
And not just noise in terms of other sounds, but other things that are interfering that connection. We thrive on connection. So many of us walk around so many hours of the day with a computer in our hand that needs to be connected. But then sometimes we get into a spot where there's a bad signal and we don't have a strong connection. So what noise is interfering with your connection? That noise could be the crowd. That noise could be something else that's preventing you from getting into the word. That noise could be any number of things, but what are we going to do to block out that noise?
Oh, that's good.
Come on with your GPS and
Come on again. We
your
traveling.
internet connection.
We are always traveling on here. Something that flip side of this just hit me as you go. That's why I love this, because things be popping off in my head. Is I think it's also a reminder, right? Isaiah 26:3, that if we keep our mind stayed on him, right, he keeps us in perfect peace.
Yes.
But I think the flip side that might even help us remember to keep our eyes on Jesus is that he's always keeping his eyes on us.
Yes.
So in each one of these passages, he let nothing deter him from healing those people.
Wow.
He was like, they had a beeline to him, but he also had a beeline to them.
Yes.
Like, he was also intentional to say, no, I'm gonna talk to the demon and say, what's your name? Like, I'm gonna take time and let you know, no, this is not happening. Like, this man, this soul, I see him differently. And so if we remember that Jesus is as concerned about us as we want him to be, like we really want him to be, we don't always believe that he is. Oh, but he is. Because his focus was also on the daughter. It was on the woman with the issue of blood. It was on the demoniac. And so just having that in our mind, that it doesn't really matter what other people are saying because we got a thing going on. Like, not me and Mrs. Jones, me and Jesus. We got a thing going on. And I think that just hit me as you were talking about this kind of focus, this real intentional focus that Christ has when it comes to us. We're like the apple of his, well, the Bible says that. We are the apple of his eye.
All right.
Indeed.
Oh, I feel so good about that. Okay.
All right.
I have one more question. So in each of these situations, we see people trying to handle the situation on their own. So the demoniac, I mean, he didn't really do much of anything. The people chained him, and he broke through the chains and all the things. The one with the issue of blood, it says that she went to every doctor, and she used all of her money. Minister Dave, you mentioned how, when we were talking, how Jairus, he had money. I'm sure he could have talked to anybody. People were at his house. I'm sure they did all the things they knew to do to handle these situations. How do we stop trying to handle situations in the natural that need a spiritual touch?
That is so good. So, we make the mistake. Scripture tells us over and over again, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. We spend so much wasted time and energy trying to fix our situations by natural means when we need supernatural resolution. The demoniac, that man, they tied him down with chains. He kept breaking out of those chains. They took physical, natural things to try to, to keep him tied down, but he kept breaking out. That was a spiritual thing going on. It took a touch from Jesus to heal that man, and we have to do the same.
Just a little touch from Jesus, my
Yes,
Lord.
indeed. And the word tells us that the word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path, right? So I always believe that, I know when I was doing everything in my way, right? But it wasn't until that I made Christ the center of everything. He has to be Lord of everything in your life. Everything. He has to be Lord of Lord. I mean, even when raising my children, and God bless them, I raised all boys, and I ended up taking them to therapy and ended up being the one in therapy because of the fact there wasn't nothing wrong with them. I had to learn to change who I was, change the thing and how I was process the fact of I'm being a disciplinarian and a nurturer. How do I continue to show them that I love them while I'm still playing a role that God didn't intend for me to do? And because God, because of my own decisions, I'm in this situation, but I got to trust God to lead me through so that I can raise them to a place where they're productive citizens. They ain't got to be rich. They ain't got to be going to be millionaires, but I need you to be productive citizens in this world and know that you came from a home that taught you respect. So I would just believe humbling yourself before Christ, allowing him to be the head of everything that you got. Nothing belongs to us, absolutely nothing. And I believe that is a process that teaches us to depend upon him.
Yeah, and you talked about the idea of how do we stop using some of these earthly things to interject when the supernatural means are required. And I think some of that comes from understanding that he has dominion and control over the earthly things as well. I was reading earlier before our conversation, Minister Davian, and in John chapter 3, he's talking to Nicodemus. And he's like, if you don't believe me when I tell you about earthly things, how can you possibly believe me if I tell you about heavenly things?
Come on.
And so if we have to understand, obviously there are these situations that needed his supernatural intervention, but he's responsible. Even when I was trying to do it by myself, even I was trying to summon my strength, it's his strength. Everything that I have is his. So when we really acknowledge that when we trying to do it through our own means, but acknowledge that our means are his means. And I think, to Minister Dana's point, that if he's not Lord of all, he's not Lord at all. And so surrendering, giving those things to him, we'll understand that us trying to do things in our earthly, natural, regular, whatever you want to call it, first understand that he's responsible for all of that in the first place before we can even begin to talk about some kind of a supernatural intervention.
If he is not Lord of
Yes,
all,
I'm stuck on that.
he is not Lord at all.
Come on now.
Selah there for a
Put
minute.
it,
Right.
yeah, put it on a T-shirt.
For real. Like, I mean, whew,
Yeah.
my Lord. Let me sit with that for a second, because it makes you think. We separate, we compartmentalize our lives as to what we can do, and then what we will allow God to do, as opposed to, no, you tell me how you want to run this, and I just respond. My position is a position of surrendering and obeying, not a position of telling you how this should be done or leading and guiding you. You're leading and guiding me. And as we see in each one of these circumstances, natural means didn't work. It just didn't work, and it doesn't matter how hard we try and how we can manifest and talk about it and do the affirmations and all the things the world tells us that we can do a vision board and then we say it 15 times and it comes to pass. Like, for real, no, that's not how that works. And if something does come to pass on the vision board, then God was still responsible. Like, we don't have the power within ourselves outside of him to manifest anything, because he's the ultimate creator.
Yes.
We are the created.
Yes.
And when we understand our position, maybe that's what this goes back to, is understanding our position. Like, who we are and who he is, what our role is, and what his role is. So I appreciate that.
Awesome.
If he is not, y'all hear me, if he is not Lord of all, he is not Lord at all. That is something to chew on. So anyway, I just want to say thank you all again. We're going to wrap this conversation up. Thank you all again for just a little dessert after that wonderful meal last week when we did Mark chapter 5. And I just want to remind everyone that the word is rich, it is powerful, and it's transformative. And so we want you to take the time to read Mark chapter 6. Go ahead and get into it, enjoy it, and then meet us here again next week as we talk and walk through Mark chapter 6 and have another conversation about that. And yeah, we appreciate you being here. So until next time, Zion, we'll see you later.